panas, amigos. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for coming back to this podcast, this crazy idea of telling my story. I'm very glad that you guys are tuning right now with me, listen at Spotify, and also watching this fantastic video about my life on YouTube. This is our second chapter, so I'm very happy that this is happening still. And well, just to give an idea, if you're new, if you just connected now, we were talking about my life. Well, I'm a tour guide, but I'm talking about my life since the beginning. The first chapter was basically talking about my starting as a parrot. This is why the name of the chapter is like a parrot, because I love talking. And that was one of my skills all the time. And briefly, I didn't know that I was going to be a guy in a certain point, but I kind of developed my skill about talking so since the beginning. Of course, a lot of things happened in my life. Basically, the economy also hit the family. I gotta be in charge of my family at a certain point, but all these stories I'll tell you in the next chapter. So this time I'm gonna talk about my high school time and how great and how terrible was in a certain point to be in high school. Well, you guys might say you are crazy, you were lazy. I was very lazy, but just for a little bit, because I was not committed. So I wasn't committed because I didn't like my school itself. So I was kind of forced to study in that school. The first 3 years on high school were in the afternoon. I hate that as much. So if you ask what you hate really bad in your life, that was one of the things. I hate to study in the afternoon. I was very lazy. I hate everything, and I was kind of thinking about why this happened to me, why I was living so far away, why we were struggling with the economy, and all this why what it happened to me came to my mind all the time. And then just to make it worse, I didn't have a chance to study in a very nice school. In a certain point, I was kind of blaming on my parents, but also that helped me a lot to absorb life on the way that it is. Life is not easy, life is difficult, right? So all these kind of things I have to go over it, and the high school was bad. So I split in two parts. One is about sports, and the other one is about how I have to compete with my friends in terms of struggling, in terms of being basically survive. On high school, it's tough life. I mean, you as a parent don't understand because you forgot in a certain point how was your time on high school. But if you guys remember, always was a competition. In terms of girls, they were always selfish between them, because they say one is slim, one is fat, one is blonde hair, one is the other one black. So in case of the men, it was all about fighting, about being good in sports, being good and handsome and stuff like that. I was always short, I was always slim. I never was white enough to be considered a Casanova or something like that, but my talking, my speech convinced everybody. You guys don't imagine how many beautiful girls I got in my life out of my mouth. This is why this chapter is about my talking like a parrot. So I was always very good on sports. Sports for me was something to release all these bad energies and all this bad mood that I had when I was mad on myself. So I was always very good on sports. I was not very talented, like a super soccer player. I aim to be a professional soccer player. Actually, I want to talk that in another chapter. I was kind of a promise in a certain point. I was playing very well. But then my father especially, he wants me to become a professional. He said, you're a brilliant sportive guy, but I want you to become a professional. So my career playing soccer was just kind of sudden stop. And then after that, I entered to practice martial arts because it was very close to my neighborhood. So I just finished it all. I got my black belt, and then after that, I even started teaching my. I was teaching in my neighborhood. I had my small academy actually for a little while, and that's something that just fulfilled all these empty space that I got for this anger about studying in school that I didn't like. For the other hand, I remember friends of mine, even though now we're still friends, they were like super sportive, they were weightlifters, and they were very big, but they were kind of afraid of talking. They were shy when they have to approach to a girl and try to date or even just talking. And guess what happened? I appeared in the scenario and I just took the best option. I just got the most beautiful girls in high school out of my talking. So even though I use that skill to kind of not doing homeworks, being in charge of talking more than writing. So when we got a homework, let's say with friends as a group homework, I always say, you guys write it down everything, and I will just talk to you because you guys are afraid to talk in front of everybody. And I didn't care about talking to people. So for me, I didn't study. Basically, as this paper, I just prepared that lecture for 5-10 minutes before the teacher came, and that was just natural, exposing everything and talking about the topic that we were assigned. So believe it or not, I developed these skills or this talking skill from the beginning, right? So my friends that sometimes were my opponents, basically because they say, why you're just taking advantage of this skill and you are taking my girl, I love this girl and I was trying to date her, but you suddenly one of the afternoon parties, basically just out of my dancing and my talking, I was dating him. So they kind of, it was a big rivalry. Everyone wants to kick me out of the situation. They want to fight with me all the time, and this is why also I decided after I stopped playing soccer in terms of becoming a professional. I took martial arts. I practiced taekwondo. So, and actually, in a certain point, I was in the school team. So then I got recognition because, it was basically you don't mess with me, because I'm not gonna attack you, but if you wanted to mess with me, you will just learn the lesson. Anyway, besides of that, I think I had some good friends. I still have some good friends from high school, but not as many as when I was in the university. So that was kind of a big jump, let's say. I graduated from high school. I'm very glad that happened because I didn't want to hold anymore in that high school because I hated very. However, at the end, of course, everything that ends up, you are committed and you're happy. And of course, at the end, we had a big party, a union party, and it was very beautiful. I dated one of the girls for extra few months after we graduated, and after that, we both decided to say this is it, and we just have to live alone each other. So then I didn't know what to do actually. My father was kind of committed to become my coach in terms of engineering, architecture, designing. My father is a civil engineer, so he always I think aimed me to become an architect or an engineer. So the elder son, of course, you can understand that always must follow the father professional. Of course, in my time, and now everything is different. So he said, no, you have to study in the best college. I want you to become an architecture because you are good at drawings. I like drawing for a little while, but I'm not very intense with that. I learned it, of course, when I was trying to become an architecture. I actually studied for, let's say, 3 months, right? And at the end, I decided not to keep going because, it was not worth it. I realized that was going to be my life the same as when I was in high school. And of course, in college, it's something that you have to keep it in mind. You need to be committed to do it because that's going to be your career. That's going to be your way of living for the rest of your life. So I was pretty honest with my dad, with my parents, and I say, you know what, I don't want to keep going with this because I hate this. I hate very, very much, and I don't want to do that. So you probably might understand, for my family, being the elder of the kids, being the example of the rest of generations, saying suddenly, no, he's not going to study. And I didn't abandon myself. I basically was kind of thinking about the society, thinking about the world. And my father said, you got to do something. You cannot stay here at home doing nothing. Because you have a skill, but until that moment, nobody noticed clearly what was my skill. So I was studying, before that I found a job for like a few weeks. I think it was like a month and a half. It was in the liquor store, right? On the liquor store, you understand that you're very close to the temptation. By that time, I was still very, very sporty. But then I was dating other girls for the same reason that I explained you before, good on speech, good on dancing. And basically I was into drinking and smoking for a little bit. Well, not smoking weed, but just smoking cigarettes. That was something that I never did it before because I was very sporty. In a certain point, I enjoyed that a lot because it was something that I never did it before. Well, I always got maybe a glass of beer or something like that, but nothing to be like completely drunk and having a big party 24 hours and enjoying with girls, going and dating different girls and stuff like that. I always like older girls, right? This is something that I don't think is I don't know if it's a coincidence, it's destiny, or what happened with my life, but most of my girlfriends that I was dating with were adults. A few years, well, not really old, but a few years older than me. I like that. Also was dating other girls as well, but in that time, as I was working on the liquor store, I got a chance to meet a lot of people, and a lot of them were girls. So after basically I quit that job, my father came to me and said, you know what, you gotta study something. I said that I'm not really ready to study a career because I don't know what I want to do. So then my dad said, let's do something. I think if you try to learn a new language, a foreign language that in that moment English was in the mind, I think it would be worth it, because eventually you could do different things, not even working particular duty, but if you have a different language skill, that will be a plus in terms of you deciding later on what to do. So then I accepted in a good way. I said, yes, I know it will be very difficult, but I like also challenges. I say, I think I'm in the position to get over this, and I can take it. So I study English in an institution. For 6 months, I was doing like an intensive course. I was studying for 4 hours a day. And after 2 months and a half, my English was okay, from zero, below zero, because in high school, as I hated. Also, our high school was public, so I think we had like 2 hours of English a week or something like that. So the possibilities of learning something were zero. But on this institution was like was worth it because it was basically English everywhere. So at the beginning I just wanted to quit. I remember, of course I didn't do it, but on the first classes everybody was talking in English, and I said, how these guys did it. It's difficult, and I was saying, no, I'm here committed to learn. So shut up and just keep going. And this is what I did. And when I was able to talk, as you know, my skill is talking, I was enjoying a lot, trying to talk to people in a different language, and I even internally in my mind, when I was trying to talk and I was trying to explain, and people understood, even though my raw English, I was happy. So I realized that that was gonna be my life. That was gonna be the way that I should follow up, and this is what I did. So on the fourth level, I think, or fifth level, I don't remember exactly, my dad came to me and said, I think you should do something in tourism. We've been researching a little bit. Well, the researching with my dad was on magazines, on newspapers, because in that time, internet was really basic. So there was there were no facilities that now you can just check it out right away, and you see reviews and everything. Eventually, my dad said, eventually, if you wanted to be hired by a cruise line, for example, you love traveling. I mean, who is getting tired of traveling? Nobody. Everybody loves traveling, and I'm not the exception as well. So my dad said, probably with your English, you can find a way to work abroad, live abroad, study abroad. So it sounds an appeal to me very nice. And I said, yeah, sure, I can maybe find a way to work in a restaurant or in a zoo. I don't know if you are in the same mode, like somebody who wants to be like a Boy Scout and wants to be a leader, wants to work on be an authority, work in a zoo, working on a park or something. I was imagining something like that myself. So my other skill always, I keep saying that it was the leadership. I always was a leader since I was a little kid. Leader also gets together with the speech, with the talking, right? So, and then my dad said at the end, you probably might work in a travel company, in a travel agency. So he was kind of showing to me, sharing the possibilities. And at the end, he said, you know what? Yeah, you get tired easily of things. I never get tired of talking. This is why I decided to do this. This is why I've been thinking many years to do this, and I took the challenge to do now. So I say, yeah, I would probably don't work in travel company because I would get tired. I don't want to be in four walls. I would love to be outside. I love to be everywhere. This is the answer, the right answer from my head. And my dad said, well, why don't you just try to become a tour guide? Tour guide, leadership, speaking, travel. Perfect combination. Perfect combination for somebody who wants to travel, who wants to, or who is a leader, because tour guiding and tourism is not for everybody. It's not just something to say I like to travel and I will work in tourism. It's a different story. I will let you know later on in a different chapter. But this is how my study continued. So I entered the university to become a tour guide, and I was committed from the beginning because my English was better. So I was able to communicate. First semester was just basically English full time. A lot of my friends, even co-workers right now, struggle a lot because English was very difficult for us. But I really got the skill. So I enjoy a lot. I was explaining volcanoes and I was committed to go every day, even that I study at night. And that's the importance of when you are committed to something. It doesn't matter if it's just snowing or there is an earthquake or you are missing a big party or something. If you're committed, this is all that counts. Parties, even though earthquakes can come later on, but if you're committed, you need to focus. You need to focus on what you're looking for. I was imagining myself, I was just I was just picturing myself in the future as a guy, right? So time passed. I think after third semester I was working, and I'm going to tell you about my first job. It's something curious and funny to mention that I am part of the old school and the crazy new baby guys that wanted to change the system. And I remember one of the teachers said, when you go to the airport, you gotta show up straight, stay still, straight. The sign needs to be lower than your mouth, so then you are able to communicate to people like a robot. No, there were like different features that you have to set yourself. And my first job, I remember as it was yesterday, I was always like the backup guy, or the backup guy, or the backup guy, or the first guy, the second guy, and the third. So it was like, if nobody else could work in Quito, guess what happened? They called me. But I was happy. Anyway, a real tour company called me. So in that moment was just a transfer from Quito's airport to the hotel. And I remember I was following every single step that the teacher shared on the class. I was also suit, and I was just straight as a robot. So, but nobody told me that they were divers. And these divers came on shorts, sandals, right? Of course, it was a wrong idea because it was during winter time in Quito, it was raining. They didn't know. They thought that as they were going to come to the equator, as happened in Kenya or in the Maldives Islands, very hot. They thought that Quito was going to be the same thing. So they arrived with like huge duffel bags that each one was weighing, 50 kilos, right? They were all the tanks and all the diving gear. I was with a suit, I was kind of expecting to meet somebody that just came and represent another country or something like that. So these are things that, I remember, and it was embarrassed at the beginning, and also now I consider it was fun. So me, all this formality that I keep in mind was gone because I helped them. There were 3 girls also, they couldn't even handle one of the duffel bags, and they had 3. So it was pouring rain, we had to take all the stuff out, and I was kind of soaking wet. And one of these guys said, you know what, I don't understand why you just came on suits. Even though we are in sandals, we are soaking wet, so poor you. And I said, well, this is something that I should change. Even though that the old school teacher said, no, don't do that. That will just go against the rules, that will go against the ambience that you have to create as a guy. I was gonna say something else, but I'm not gonna tell you because there are kids watching this and I'm not gonna tell that. So I said myself, this is ridiculous. I have to do a change. So basically this is what happened at the beginning. I was just from time to time being in charge of leading some people around the city. When I got the chance to work, even though, as an overnight outside the city, I was not even able to sleep all night long, thinking about what I'm gonna do, what I'm going to show them out. I was reading, I was kind of refreshing myself, thinking that the guidance was gonna be like a classroom. But this is something that I keep it like a good memory. In fact, sometimes when we talk to older friends, that we were classmates and now still guides, we laugh as much because there were some bloopers that we did along the way, thinking that was going to be the way and that should be the way. But then we realized that, as I told you, we were the generation who decide to change the most. And tourism is like, it's easy going. Right now we call experiences more than tourism. Because you that are watching at me, you that are listening at me, you might have a different way to enjoy tourism. And this is why we need to understand. People who work in tourism need to understand, need to focus on every single person's thing. This is it for this moment. Of course, I appreciate you guys, first of all, watching on YouTube, listen us on our podcast on Spotify and all the networking that is also this streaming on this channel. I invite you to subscribe because I have a lot of things to tell. In the next chapter, I'm going to talk about when I just consider myself as an authentic guide, a licensed guide, certified. Of course, that was a big boost to my economy. It was a big boost of being able to buy whatever I wanted to buy. I did it. And of course, as life goes, there were some low moments also that happened in my life. So this is what is coming in my next chapter. So I recommend you to stay tuned, to follow us. And if you want to hear this crazy story, well, you're more than welcome. So don't forget to subscribe, and we will meet you and see you again next time. Enjoy, amigos.